She's awesome. There's nothing so easy to see why so many wonderful people work for Kpmg. She's a wonderful leader. She's a wonderful human being. She gets it. And, they say that good leadership attracts more good leaders. So I'm pleased to also invite in a conversation to the stage of sorts, Diane Greco. Diana is the managing director in Kpmg's Global Mobility Services practice. She's deeply committed to the St. Louis community, where she oversees implementation and execution of the company's charitable efforts there as co-chair of Kpmg's Community Impact Council. Diana also currently co-chairs the St. Louis NAF Advisory Board, where Kpmg teamed with us, Jennings School District, and other corporate sponsors to implement NAF's first Future Ready Lab in St. Louis. I'm so pleased that Diana could join us and talk with our exceptional students and alumni in front of all of you today. But before I turn this whole thing over, a few things I want to say. I remain very, very optimistic about the future. I believe that success is not measured on where you start, but the road that you choose to travel. And I look forward to seeing you on that road in the days to come. I hope they're sooner rather than later. And in the meantime, I want to stress some things. I would ask you to stay committed. I would ask you to stay open to change because it's going to keep coming at us. I want you to stay safe, get those masks on, wash those hands, stay apart, don't socially distance. I'm so social, I'd say physically distance. Let's stay socially connected. And vote. Our future depends on it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, JD. I'm thrilled to be serving as a moderator for this morning's panel featuring NAF students and alumni. I've been with Kpmg, as JD said, in St. Louis for going on 17 years now. For the last 3 years, we've partnered together with Worldwide Technology, MasterCard, and the University of Missouri to host a Future Ready Lab in St. Louis. Our first Future Ready Lab hosted students from Jennings High School. The second year, we added students from University City. And this year, we're hosting a virtual panel, having shifted due to the current COVID environment. Very soon, we're going to be hosting students from Ferguson Florissant. They're going to be joining us in St. Louis. It has been an honor and a pleasure working with these partners and students, and honestly, one of the highlights of my career, although it has nothing to do with taxes. I'd like to thank our panelists for being here with us virtually today to share the NAF journey. We are excited to hear about their work and learning experiences in this new virtual world, hear about their aspirations and hopes for the future, and everything that they've overcome along the way. First, we're going to welcome Bryson Ellis, a recent graduate from Olympic High School Academy of Finance in Charlotte, North Carolina, and a former Kpmg intern. Second, Casey Anderson is a current student at Innovation Design Entrepreneurship Academy of Finance in Dallas, Texas. Welcome, Casey. And last but not least, Emily Almendarez is a current student at Long Island City High School Academy of Hospitality and Tourism in Queens, New York. Welcome, all 3 of you. So let's dive right in and first talk a bit about your experiences with NAF and work-based learning. Let's start with you, Bryson. It's so great to be able to connect with a former Kpmg intern. Can you tell me what types of work-based learning experiences helped prepare you for your internship?
Hold on, give me 1 second, Diane. I can't hear you. Give me 1 second.
Oh, you can't? Okay. We'll wait for some tech support.
Can you say that again? I can't hear you on my.
Can you hear me now?
Hold on.
No? What type of work-based learning experiences helped prepare you for your internship? Are you not hearing me?
I can't hear you.
Okay. Can we shift to Casey? And we'll talk to Casey while we let Bryson work out his tech issues. Casey,
Sure.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Perfect.
Work-based learning helped me prepare for my internship by giving me mock interviews. So one day we spent an entire day of school just going, meeting with people from Verizon, Kpmg, different companies that support NAF, and we spent the entire day doing mock interviews, and we had to print our resumes and things like that. Even when I went to the internship fair, it prepared me for real life because that's you go to job fairs, and I was luckily given the opportunity to intern with Parkland due to going to that internship fair. So that's how it's helped me so far.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. Emily, can you tell me what was the most valuable part of your internship experience? And can you please talk about the skills that you developed?
The most valuable part about my internship experience would be changing into a more professional environment, and prior to that, also taking part in a lot of activities such as NAV Internship Day and using skills such as promoting, researching, interviewing, and all skills that will someday be necessary for my future jobs. So.
Absolutely. That is fantastic. Bryson, are you with us yet? Doesn't sound like it. Okay. We'll continue with Emily and Casey, and Bryson, whenever you do join, please just jump right in and we'll catch up with you. So let's shift to everyone's favorite topic these days, COVID-19. When COVID-19 hit late this winter and early spring, obviously everybody had to shift, and this virtual session is a perfect example of that. I would like each of you to describe your experiences with remote learning this last semester. Emily, do you want to start us off?
Yes. I would say that my experience wasn't as hard as expected. I expected it to be super difficult and so much more work than what I got, thankfully. But due to it, I really improved on time management and scheduling and making a schedule that's comfortable not only for my personal life but for my schoolwork also, which at the end I think really paid off since I ended with all A's and ready for the next school year.
That is fantastic. Congratulations on a 4.0 GPA, or probably higher with the AP classes that you're taking.
Thank you.
Did you find it more difficult to learn in that environment, or were your teachers able to communicate virtually the way you needed them to?
I think they communicated sufficiently. A lot of the videos that they provided were from YouTube, so external help was provided for me, and when I had questions, they would answer. So I think we all adapted to the situation so fine. So that's my experience. I know many others didn't have it like that.
You're a high achiever, I can tell. So I'm certainly sure that contributed to it.
Yeah.
Casey, how about you? Can you describe your experience with remote learning over the last semester?
Yes, it was very similar to Emily's. At my school, everyone's issued a laptop at the beginning of the school year. So everything was already online. So all of our assignments and everything was majority already online. The only thing that really changed was the teaching style. And that really didn't even change. It was the fact that, the whole communication, be able to network with people, I missed that part of it. But academic wise, nothing really changed. I was taking 2 college courses through UTA, University of Texas at Austin. And that was kind of complicated because they were trying to figure out things while we were trying to figure out things. But overall, I ended up with a very successful school year.
Okay, that's good to hear. I'm glad for both of you that it was a positive experience and didn't have too much difficulty to overcome. Any chance Bryson is back with us? Doesn't sound like it. Okay, we'll forge ahead without him. I'm sorry to hear that he was having those issues. So KPMG recognizes the value of internships, and we proceeded with nearly 2,500 virtual internships this summer, including 2 virtual NAF Future Ready labs. Casey, I understand you were also participating in a virtual internship with Pcci, the research organization for Parkland Health and Hospital System, which can be really unconventional in terms of joining a new employer and never actually going to their office. We're super excited to hear about your experience. Tell us, Casey, about your virtual internship and how your job has transitioned to a remote environment.
Well, at my internship, we're mainly focusing on COVID data and trying to locate trends within the data. It's been kind of hard because all of my coworkers are so sweet and I've only met them over Zoom, but just being able to connect with them and things like that, I really wish I could be in office with them. Luckily for orientation, I was able to go see where I would have been working if it was in person, and the campus is very nice. And I got to go up there with the fellow interns who were interning there too, so I at least got to meet the people who I would be working with again. Um, the the virtual aspect of it, everything I'm doing is online, so I'm coding and things of that nature with the data. The only thing, like I said before, is the networking. It's the only thing I'm really missing out on. But everything else would have been online to begin with. So that's
Gotcha.
what's going.
What tasks have you enjoyed working on the most?
Honestly, realizing that Excel has limits, I didn't know that, and so I got 15,000 sheets worth of data, and they were like, you can't keep coding this." So I had to start a new sheet, but it was really cool to realize that it doesn't go on forever.
And you're specifically working with tracking COVID cases, right, in the
Yes,
city of
ma'am.
Dallas? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that information being used to do? Do you get to see the bigger picture of the work that you're doing?
Yes. So my ultimate goal is to create a geo map with all of the zip codes in Dallas County to be able to decipher each trend in race, gender, sex, pre-existing health conditions, and things of that nature. Just everything that plays a part in leading up to COVID or anything of that nature.
That is fantastic. And what a huge help that's going to be. Very
Yes.
exciting. So any chance Bryson is with us? I'll just keep checking as we go through to see if he's able to rejoin. Okay, Casey, let's go back to you. What breakthroughs do you hope to see in education and in the workforce post-COVID?
I'll start with education. So in education, I'm hoping that the teaching style history-wise changes, and even in classes like social study classes change, and the conversations become more transparent. And hopefully, the way that us students were taught history changes, and it's a more open and has more of a flow to it, and it's more inclusive with everyone's history. Work wise, I hope to see again more inclusiveness, having, more people who look like me or look like Emily or even just look like anyone who's not the social norm in the higher parts of business, and even in the businesses to begin with, like on advertisements, or even, just to be able to say, hey, I work for so and so and so and so. Because once you see someone else do it, I feel as if I can do it. So I just feel
Having it modeled is very important and somebody
yes.
that you can relate to.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. Bryson? No, Bryson.
Okay. All right.
I thought I could
Can you hear me?
him.
All right.
Yes,
Okay,
you
cool.
are back.
Okay, cool.
Welcome. I know those
Okay.
technology issues, that's part of the virtual world that we're living in, so no worries
Definitely.
at all. I would love to go back if we can for just a second, confirming you can hear me now.
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. So let's go back just a little bit and tell us a little bit about your internship with Kpmg and what you gained from that. And then we'll give you a chance to sort of catch up and talk about your COVID world for your last semester of school.
Okay, so just to start off, one of the things that NAF taught me was definitely the importance of building a great resume, taking classes that are relevant to the things I want to do in the future. I know I took Principles of Business and Finance class. I also like the accounting course that I took, which definitely helped me to choose a major in economics at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. The accounting course also helped me determine like what I want to do in the future. So I really appreciated that. And then with Kpmg, this was the summer leading into my junior year and the summer leading into my senior year. So I had the chance to work with tax, audit, advisory, and the business operational services. And the important thing that I really gained from that was a sense of professionalism and definitely the importance of networking. I never realized how important networking was until I got into Kpmg. You know, with tax, I definitely had the opportunity to work with federal and state tax returns. I had the chance to really dig in deep and see how things go in the business world. It's not really just everybody sitting behind a computer. It's definitely a lot more than that. So I really appreciated that. And it just taught me how to conduct myself in the professional environment.
That is fantastic. And congratulations, by the way, on your acceptance to UNC Chapel Hill. That is quite an accomplishment.
Yes, ma'am.
So right before you were able to rejoin, we were talking about the COVID environment for your last semester of school. How did that impact your ability to learn for the last semester?
It definitely, I guess it was different to say the least. It wasn't, I don't think it was as bad as everybody's making it out to be because we still had assignments on Canvas. We were still learning. We were still doing work. It was just in an unconventional fashion. So I think that's what NAF really does stress, that's important, to be able to think on your feet, to be able to pick things up in stride. So I think that's really important. I also had a couple of Zoom meetings with Ernst & Young College Map Program. That's a program that I'm in for upcoming college students. It really teaches you about accounting, finance, scholarships in college. So I feel like even in Zoom meetings, somebody's doorbell could ring, somebody's dog could start barking. So that really just proved that we're really all in this together. It really brings a humane factor into it, even when we're looking at each other through computer screens.
Absolutely, all this is true for all of us in working.
Yes, right.
Okay, so let's shift now to post-COVID, and I'll let you start this question off, and then we'll get our answers from Emily and Casey as well. How did NAF prepare you to be successful no matter the circumstance? Bryson, if you want to go ahead and answer that, then
okay. NAF definitely prepared me, as I said before, taking things in stride. I think it really taught me how to be definitely a better orator, because before I entered the NAF program, I was a little bit more shy, but now I understand the importance of making yourself heard, not necessarily being the loudest, but being concise, knowing what you want to say, knowing how to think quickly on your feet, and just processing things a lot quicker. I think that's what NAF definitely taught me.
Okay, that's fantastic. Emily, how about you?
I would say that it definitely boosted up my confidence in fitting into a professional environment, which is something as a high schooler is kind of more difficult to fit in with. So that really opened up my eyes to the world that we live in.
Very good. And Casey, how about you? How did NAF prepare you to be successful no matter the circumstance?
They helped me, honestly, like everyone's been saying, with management and being able to do things that are out of your comfort zone. Because at my school, every Monday we have to dress up professionally, and we get surprised internees and people who might want to mentor us. So you kind of have to come up there, and so you have to be like Bryson said, ready on your feet, because we always surprised at my school. But yeah, just being able to conform to any situation and know, like, being uncomfortable is, you need to not be uncomfortable.
Ready for anything. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Okay, let's transition now to the topic of Black Lives Matter. And I know this is a heavy topic. We know that COVID has disproportionately affected Black communities and businesses. And with the murder of George Floyd, the necessity to tackle racism was reignited worldwide. Schools, as educators and preparers of the future workforce, and companies, as businesses and employers, have a responsibility to be a part of that challenge. We really look forward to hearing each of your perspectives on this matter. First question on this topic: what support do you think is needed, and what do you think will result in lasting change? Bryson, let's start with you.
For me, I think the thing that will result in lasting change is definitely education. One that isn't educated, if they don't know their history or other people's history, then they're likely to be ignorant. And I think the education, if you educate yourself or if you get some form of education, that'll definitely erase any ignorance you have. Because a lot of people, they might have some form of ignorance, and they don't even know it. It's just subconscious. So just being aware and educating yourself, I think that's extremely important to make any lasting impact.
Very good. Emily, how about you? What support do you think is needed, and what do you think will result in lasting change?
First, I wanted to say I agreed with what Bryson mentioned. I think education and how what we're being taught is very important for our point of view. But I also wanted to mention the fundamental rule of respect and empathy that as humans we should all have for each other. We all go through like different things that nobody really knows about. So being open to each other and being able to understand each other's point of views could really be eye opening for many and can change mindsets, which is what we all need.
Yes, it is. Casey, what would you have to add?
I agree with both of them. I just feel like creating a safe space to have these conversations and to be empathetic and to be respectful. You might not want to do it in front of everyone, because everyone's learning and everyone's getting comfortable with having these important conversations. I know for a fact at my school, we're very diverse. I mean, we're very diverse in all forms and fashions, but there was still this kind of not lack of, but need for a safe space for everyone to be able to communicate with one another, judge free.
Mm-hmm.
My slogan for my club is unapologetically me or unapologetically you. And the name of my club is Black Excellence. And I simply created this club to give students a safe space to be themselves, judgment free. It's a student led club. And we just had a whole bunch of events and met every Friday, or really honestly, whenever we could, and just had these conversations on these tough topics that just need to be held. They need to happen, and we need to be open to hearing what everyone has to say.
And you started this club a while ago, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Before all of this came up. So you're quite
Before
the trailblazer in understanding what's needed.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool. Let's let you go first this time. What diversity, inclusion, or equity practices have you seen companies implement that have inspired you?
So one company that's really inspired me is Ben and Jerry's. Just the fact that they are such pioneers in corporations. That's just how I feel, because they have always, made their opinions and the way they feel known. They've always fought battles for each group, and they've never, been subjective to anything, and they've never been quiet either. I know for a fact that after this whole COVID and the unfortunate murder of George Floyd happened, they made a statement and they let everyone know, this isn't wrong and we don't stand for it and we won't allow that to happen. And we support you and we're donating to Black owned companies and so on and so forth. So I think as African American women, having someone, a corporation be able to say that, it's empowering, and it makes me feel like I can do anything that I need to do. And I actually went and bought some Ben and Jerry's yesterday just because I'm like, you support me, so I'm going to support you. So
That's awesome. Not to mention it tastes great.
Definitely.
Thank you. Emily, what have you seen companies implement that have inspired you?
Something that I've really seen, especially on social media, was the use of their platform to spread awareness for these situations. I think
Okay.
many companies have really stepped forward with their posts and their voices, and they're using it for the greater good. And I've also seen a lot of companies use probably like 50% of their profits or maybe even more to donate to Black owned businesses or people who are striving to make a change in these times.
Very good. Thank you. And Bryson, last but not least, what are your thoughts on what practices you've seen companies implement that have inspired you?
One company that I really like what they did was Apple. They actually promoted black artists and black entertainers on their radio. I know Vans also did something with Blackout Tuesday where instead of buying some Vans shoes, they actually said, "Hey, go support a black owned business." And I think that's really important. Just like what Casey and Emily said, getting a big push from the big major corporations. One last thing that I did see that I liked at KPMG definitely was the diversity and inclusion. They actually promoted all the different diversity and inclusion clubs that you can join. It doesn't matter if you're LGBTQ, Asian, Black. It really doesn't matter. They support everyone, and I know they have a National Association for Black Accountants, which they also support. So it really did make me feel more comfortable in the professional environment.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, each of you, for spending time with us today. We know your insights will be invaluable to the entire NAF network of educators and businesses. In a recent announcement, our new chairman and CEO, Paul Knopp, acknowledged that KPMG has made significant progress and changed a lot, but we haven't changed nearly enough. Paul said that now is the time for bold, audacious action in announcing KPMG Accelerate 2025, an audacious 5-year strategy to drive meaningful change at KPMG. And so now the final question, and I want each of you to answer this one. If you could ask one thing of the educators or employers in the audience to include in their plans to launch all of us into a more equitable future, what would that be? And Bryson, let's start with you.
One thing I would say is definitely being aware at all times, being aware of what you say, being aware of what you do, and just think about how it would come off to someone else. I would also say being ready to listen, seeking for understanding, because you don't necessarily have to agree with someone's point as long as you understand where they're coming from. Then you're making a huge stride in the right direction. Yeah, I would just say look for understanding, look to understand where somebody else is coming from. That's very important.
I agree. Casey, how about you? What's one piece of advice that you would like to give to educators or employers in terms of including something in their plans to help us launch a more equitable future?
Honestly, I think I agree with Bryson. Mainly, just be ready to listen, be open to what everyone is saying and how everyone is feeling, because it's a difficult time for everyone. I mean, it doesn't matter what you, like you said, what you look like or who you are. It's a difficult time. So when these companies, implement these rules, I just want everyone, if everyone could just be understanding and empathetic, like Emily said, like it's different time, it's a different world, and we just need to be one with one another, honestly, and just, be open.
Understand. Very good.
Well,
Bryson, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second because I know when we were when we were talking about this earlier, you schooled me on the difference between equity and equality, and I would love for you to explain that. To make sure
Okay, so just give you that quickly. So with equality, let's say, just to give you an example, let's say everybody's in a race and the goal is to get to $100. Okay, so one man starts out with $10, the next man starts out with $20, the next, or man or woman, starts out with $30. Okay, so equality would be giving everybody $70. So the man with $30, he wins, he gets to 100. The man with $20, he gets 70 more dollars, he gets to 90. And then the man with $10, he gets $70, he gets to 80. So that doesn't fully help the other two, but it helps the one person who was already at an advantage. But with equity, that would be giving everybody enough money to where they could get to that 100. So giving the man with 30, 70, giving the man with 20, 80, and then giving the man or woman with 10, 90. So yeah, that's the difference between equity and equality.
I love that analogy, and I have always thought that the color of an individual's skin should not determine the opportunities available to them. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about there. And I know why I'm involved in NAF. And I really appreciate you sharing that with me and sharing it with the group, because I think it's important that everybody understand. So Emily, let's get your feedback on what you think that educators and employers in the audience need to include in their plans to help all of us have a more equitable future.
what I would suggest would just be being transparent with the whole talk with starting the talk on race and systemic issues that many companies and many places have today that are affecting everybody. Um, I think that would be the main thing because it's uncertainty that causes fear within people. And when we address those, it'll cause a way more suitable environment for everybody who works there. So that's my point of view.
Thank you so much. In closing, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for spending time with us this morning. We applaud you for your hard work, your dedication, and your contributions. Bryson, best of luck to you at UNC Chapel Hill. Looking forward to hearing more. I would love to keep in touch with you. And for you ladies, best of luck with your senior year of high school. I'm so excited for the futures that are ahead of you. I can see that they're fantastic, and you've got everything in the world going for you. Thank you again for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. And it's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Art McCoy. He's an inspiring internationally educator and champion of children. Dr. McCoy currently serves as the superintendent of the Jennings School District in Missouri, and under McCoy's leadership, 4 Jennings senior classes have achieved 100% graduation, career, and college placement. I have had the distinct honor and privilege to work alongside Dr. McCoy in St. Louis, implementing Kpmg's second Future Ready Lab in the country. New York City was the first. We collaborated with Jennings High School, Worldwide Technology, and MasterCard to create St. Louis's Future Ready Lab. We've added the University City School District to the collaboration, and Ferguson Florissant is in the process of onboarding. Dr. McCoy's leadership was instrumental in helping us successfully execute our first Future Ready Lab with very little planning time available that first year. He will close us out this afternoon and share his perspective on current events, the importance of leadership and empathy, and encourage fellow educators to lean into this challenging time and play an active role in supporting students. Let's give him our full attention. Over to you, Dr. McCoy.
Thank you so much, Diana. It's always a pleasure to see you and be with you, and it's a pleasure to be with my entire NAF family. You are amazing, amazing educators and amazing men and women who are serving our children every day. So we have some time available to talk about leadership, to talk about leaning into this current reality, and to talk about what we must do next to engage America and the world. So frankly, the world has changed, and last school year was unique and unprecedented for all of us. I like to separate what has occurred into 3 categories. That is the category of BC for before COVID, the category of DC for during COVID, and the category of AC for after COVID. And to make the most of our 10 minutes, I want to say that BC is BC for a reason. It's a pun where BC means like before Christ, technically, but it also means like an old age. And we are in a new situation where the 21st century essential skills are kind of outdated. And it's in the BC era of before COVID, which is what we're talking about. That's an era where you place students first and you do whatever it takes to even like be a parent to a child and mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and anything to keep the kid alive, well, and learning. Well, with COVID, some of those things are outdated, and you cannot just go along saying, do whatever it takes to come to school. You need to be at school every day. That's BC. Now we have to live in DC, where safety is first priority. Safety of students, safety of staff, safety of stakeholders and community partners. Secondly, in DC during COVID, it's difficult to have work-based internships and apprenticeships like we had for the past 4 years, where every kid got a paid internship or apprenticeship before graduation. Well, that's been difficult with the number of parents and adults that have been furloughed, laid off, and those that are essential workers, and just with the virus overall. And that's why I want to thank Kpmg, Diana Greco, Lenovo and the leadership there and other corporations that's made it possible for students to have remote internships. And most importantly, I want to thank JD and NAF for having the vision to have students do a nationwide remote internship at the end of this school year. Truly, that is an essential 21st century skill during DC, during COVID. BC is prehistoric, it's in the past, and we may never go back into a BC era. But in DC during COVID, it's essential to have those critical thinking, problem solving skills on how to be connected and to have connectivity. We must break through the current barriers we have and to connect with one another for careers, for college, and for character. And so I want to lastly say about AC. As a superintendent of schools, as a contract tracer that was trained and certified through Johns Hopkins, and I led about hundreds of others to become contact tracers, because you have to not just say you're a lifelong learner, you have to be a lifelong learner. And it's nothing better than to have shown that as a leader by becoming a contact tracer through Johns Hopkins course and led 100 or so others to do so as educators to keep students, staff, and stakeholders and parents safe. But the point is, we won't see AC after COVID until there is herd immunity of over 80% of people to 90% being given COVID and then getting well, or we won't see after COVID until there's a vaccine, not only created, but distributed to everyone across the nation. So we literally are looking at 1 to 2 school years, the 2022 to 2023 school year being the first school year of being an after COVID, where all the actions that we're going to have to do during COVID may be able to be relaxed because there's now a vaccine that's been distributed to everyone and feel that everyone feels safe enough to take. 22-23. So that's a worst case scenario, but nonetheless, that's reality. So between now, 2020 and 2022, the 21-22 school year, we need to certainly be looking at how to manage during COVID. I want to say most educators and superintendents never say what the original purpose of education was. In BC, the Jeffersonian purpose of education that created FAPE, free and appropriate public education, after the Civil War, thanks to Senator Robert Smalls from South Carolina, who then helped to put that into the state constitution. Then it got spread everywhere else in the South, that made the whole United States have FAPE for all the then recently freed slaves to then become educated individuals. That purpose of education was for the apprenticeship. So I call it for careers, apprenticeships, so that you can have meaningful work. It was for an educated electorate. So that's to have enough education to vote, to have democracy move forward. And it was for character development, to have character. Many of us educators know the law called the Satan Deluder Act of Massachusetts, which means to teach people the catechism. Well, now it's just character education. So careers, college, and character was the BC, where the BC goes. That mission for education still remains true. And it's up to us as leaders to not just provide a free and appropriate education that's adequate to most. Now, during DC, we're in a new era where equity must be the standard. That when you cannot physically come to school, you must be able to provide an equitable amount of connectivity, hotspots, computers, one-on-one phone calls, to be able to meet the need at the speed of the need, so that each child can have enough learning to be an educated electorate to continue our democracy, so that each community can have enough character to say that we're public servants enough to do what it takes to keep safety first, not doing anything and everything to be at school, but safety first and an educated electorate second, which includes careers through remote learning and or in-person learning and in-person internships. We still need those. It may be as an essential worker. It may be as something else than an essential worker, working at a grocery store, working at a Lowe's, working at an office perhaps that can't close because you're finance doing payroll and you're essential in order for people to get paid. A custodian and maintenance, We have OSHA certifications for construction workers, OSHA 10 and 15. That's more important now than ever to know what it takes to stay healthy and well, because every school is only as safe as their people who are going to keep things clean, safe, and under OSHA compliance. So that's a huge thing that we all need to lean into during DC. So the point is, BC was about adequate education so that you come and everybody has access to come get it. That's before COVID. DC is about equity, connection, breaking through to reach out and touch everyone to get, according to their level of need, enough education to have a career, to be an educated citizen in this great democracy, and to have the character to push through anything. There is a lot of fear during COVID, but we must reframe fear. We must be lifelong learners and be able to label it as a lifelong learner. What is the fear? What is the challenge? What is the barrier? We must be able to then reframe it. Even if it's a fear, reframe your fears and understand how to overcome them by labeling it, knowing it, and then reframing it. What do I mean? Take the word fear itself, and we don't look at it as fear. We look at it as facing everything and rising. That's how we reframe fear. We face everything and we rise, because we are not warriors, we are warriors. There's a statement that I love to say, and that's this. Optimists say, oh, this will pass. It'll soon go away. We'll be in after COVID soon. Pessimists say, I hate this. We just have too much going on and this is just not going to work. The worries are so great. But leaders lean in. Leaders become the thermostat that change the climate. And the way you as leaders will do that is by having the courage of a first responder, enough to know that you will be given the equipment and should demand the equipment to save your life as you run into a fire, to put out a fire that's an academic fire called Educating During COVID DC. And that ultimately you must reframe any fear by labeling it, studying it, and overcoming it, connecting and overcoming, and then facing everything and rising. With that, we will have the ability to have competency-based grading after COVID and during. We will have mastery learning after and during, where students won't have to have seat time in order to get their credits. They can take an assessment and know that they have 60% of it mastered, take the 40%, and then move on in a week's time. This can become the norm in AC. So I want to say that it will only be possible with me and you and me, great organizations like NAF, great leaders like JD, and all the corporate leaders and all of you who are online, leaning in, facing every fear, and rising. We will be greater than we were before. It requires more from me and you. Thank you for having the courage to meet that challenge. And now I want to welcome back to the stage our friend.
Wow. Well, I would say we're off to a great start. Thank you, Chancellor Mack and JD. Thank you to our esteemed panelists of students. We know our future is in great hands thanks to all of you. And thank you to Kpmg for hosting. And to Dr. McCoy. Your inspirational words are incredible, and I know we'll all be thinking about how we can face everything and rise together. We hope that this year's conference helps you feel a little more prepared for this school year, whatever that might look like. We're excited to let you know that NAF will be releasing a bunch of new digital tools to support you this fall in the face of this new reality. We'll be providing business professionals to be virtual speakers in your classrooms, sharing new lesson plans and activities you can teach in partially open schools, and launching a peer support community where you can get advice from other NAF educators. These resources are available for anyone, not just NAF teachers. Just point your phone at this QR code or click in the link in the chat to be the first to hear when new resources are released. We hope you enjoy the rest of today and tomorrow. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for all the NAF Next 2020 action. Share your questions, breakthroughs, and highlights